Joining me right now to talk more about that is Tennessee Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn. Congresswoman, it's good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good to see you. Thank you.
So let's talk about this tax plan. Do you think this can move through the regular process and get, with 60 votes, getting Democrats involved and voting on tax reform? Or do you think you all will have to do this during reconciliation to get 51 votes?
I would expect that we will do it through reconciliation. I do think the door is open, and we would love to see a bipartisan effort. And Secretary Mnuchin is exactly correct on that. Democrats should want to come to the table. This is something that is good for the U.S. economy. It is good for the U.S. taxpayer. It is good for businesses large and small. So let's clean up this tax code. Let's simplify it. Let's look at those rates, those marginal rates, and reduce those into the three categories. Then on the business side, absolutely, simplification is going to be necessary. Repatriation, allowing companies to bring that money back, go into R&D, and shift that focus. Less regulation plus less taxation plus less litigation is always going to yield more innovation and job creation.
Well, I'll tell you, if you and the other members, your colleagues, can get this done, this would just be an extraordinary moment for the country. I know health care is on the docket this week. I'm going to ask you about that in a moment. But let me stay on tax reform for a moment, because isn't the debate, won't the conversation or the battle be around the deductions and around whether or not this plan needs to be revenue neutral or not? Congresswoman, would you vote without having some kind of a revenue raise within the tax plan? Or do you think that, look, the American people want tax cuts, let's just give them the tax cuts, let's just take away these deductions and worry about raising revenue somewhere else?
Maria, I think that what we know is when you leave that money with the taxpayer and they are able to spend that money or invest that money, start a business, then what you're going to see is an increase in revenues for the government. It works that way every single time, because when the rates are so high, when the compliance and the regulation is so high, when trade is very difficult, you do not see that growth in the economy. And as Dagan was just talking about the numbers, and when you get inside those numbers from last week, what you see is something that does not have that long-term growth coming into this quarter. And what we have to do is shift that focus so people are putting the emphasis on that growth, on that foundation. Then the revenues will come.
Do you expect the GOP health care plan on the docket this week? We're hearing increasingly that you all are close, that you probably have the votes in the House. President Trump, of course, telling CBS that he's hoping a deal happens. The GOP health care bill will include pre-existing conditions, he said. Listen to this.
Pre-existing conditions are in the bill. And I mandated, I said, it has to be. So we're going to have lower premiums. And before you start there, let me just tell you something. Obamacare is dead. Obamacare right now, all the insurance companies are fleeing. Places like Tennessee have already lost half of their state with the insurance companies. They're all going. Obamacare, John, is dead.
So, Congressman Blackburn, the president just mentioned your state, Tennessee specifically. Do you believe the inclusion of pre-existing conditions can get Democrats on board with the health care replacement plan?
I would hope that it would be. And we have to realize since 2006, coverage for pre-existing conditions has been a Republican issue. It was in our bill and then in 2009 also, and there has been support for that. My hope would be that our colleagues across the aisle would come in, would work with us so that we can address the failings of the Obamacare system. The insurance marketplace is imploding. We are hearing from providers that the lack of reimbursement makes it very difficult to deliver $1 of care when you're not going to get $1 for that care you've delivered. We have hospitals. We've lost 80 hospitals in rural areas in the past year. So what we know is this is not working. It is a plan that's too expensive to afford. The insurance, when people get the insurance, is too expensive to use. So yes, it is imploding. It needs to be replaced. We need to work this out, and we need bipartisan support to do it so that it's long-term and lasting.
Real quick, Congresswoman, were you happy with the spending bill?
I would love to see more of an emphasis on the border wall, but I think that's going to wait to the 2018 budget when we nail that down. Right now, let's get a CR, get through the end of the year, and then begin work on next year's budget and incorporate more of what President Trump wants to see done.
All right, we'll be watching, and of course, that's exactly what you've done with this continuing resolution. Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for weighing in this morning.